Welcome to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris, and I'm passionate about showing leaders the power of communication and how it can transform their organizations, from Fortune 500 boardrooms all the way to brand new startups. As a leader, your actions and your words transform people and your company culture. So join me as I share tips and insights for elevating your leadership abilities as well as your team's performance. Let's dive right in. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Stacey Harris. Thank you for joining me today. We are in my bedroom because we're going to be talking about working from home. This year, 2020, has been different for the workforce. Many of you are working from home for the first time. Many of you are schooling your children at home while working from home, while living in your home. So home has taken on a whole new meaning, and we want to talk about that as leaders. How are we navigating this crazy season that we're all experiencing? Some of you may actually be back at your workplace. Some of you may be at home. Some of you may have hybrid teams where some are still at home, some are back in the workplace at different hours. And so it is really an interesting season. And I want to talk about communication during COVID and how that's affecting us as individuals, how it's affecting our team members, even just our children, how it's impacting our families, because it really is making an impact. And we've got to learn how to navigate that successfully for our teams, for ourselves, and for our families. So first of all, let's talk about Zoom fatigue. It's a real thing. It really is something that we're all experiencing. If you are on multiple Zoom calls or some kind of video conferencing call throughout the day, you need to take breaks. You need to schedule times in between rather than jumping from one thing to the next. Recently, I was talking with one of my clients who's a CEO of a storage company, and he was talking about looking at the logged hours of their team members, and he was telling me how many hours he had logged on Zoom meetings, whether it be whole teams or just one-on-one, and it was ridiculous, honestly. And this was back in August. And so we were just encouraging each other to practice some real practical things of health into our schedules and not be online constantly 8 hours a day. It's not the same as when we were popping into meetings throughout the day in person. It's very different. Communication looks very different. So you need to be able to really be self-aware and put in some breaks throughout your day that aren't just going from one video conferencing call to another, because it is actually doing something to us physically that we're not even quite aware of. So be aware of all of the conferencing calls that you're doing throughout the day and be able to schedule some breaks in between those. Number 2, communication. Listening is so vitally important. You've heard me talk about how it's not just the words we speak, it's our tone of voice, it's our body language that's impacting communication. And then we put ourselves in these little boxes online when we're not face-to-face. It's really challenging. We feel very flat. All of us are feeling very flat because we are in this season. And so how do we emote? How do we express ourselves? How do we maintain eye contact? All of those things that we're used to doing face-to-face, but now in this virtual setting because of extensive social distancing, it's becoming a challenge. And so just be aware. Have a lot of grace for one another. Goodness, I know I'm leading so many virtual calls, and then one day I've got 5 people in the waiting room and my video camera is not working, and it worked an hour before. Anybody else experience that? Quite frustrating. So having a little grace, I think we all have that in this season. We're all understanding that this is new territory that we're navigating as we're working from home. And so being aware, self-awareness, it's so important in leadership. It's so important in communication, and it's vitally important in this season. Leaning into listening, making sure you're asking clarifying questions. It's going to be huge to make sure that you're not making wrong assumptions so that you're getting the right results the first time that you're hoping for, instead of having to rework projects. How many of us have done that in this season? When we get to the end of something and we realize we missed something vitally important important. So asking those clarifying questions, especially in this season where we're not physically together all of the time, can be so vitally important for your teams to really clarify. You've heard me say this before, I'll say it again. Email is the worst form of communication, but how many of us on our teams are communicating with that method alone? If you can jump on a video call, I highly recommend it so that you can see the facial expressions, so you can hear the tone of voice, so that you don't make the assumptions that we do when we're reading an email. Obviously, email is part of our daily life. It's going to always be there, but make sure that you're not solving big problems. Maybe you're just communicating information with some bullet points, but if you have a problem that needs to be solved, do it face-to-face if possible, socially distanced. If you can't get face-to-face physically, a video call is the second best option. Also, when you're working from home, understand your limits. Understand that we're all juggling so many things. My kids are grown. For those of you who have young children, I cannot imagine all the balls that you have in the air right now. I've heard from several of my clients that, schools are canceling the morning of, and kids are home when they thought they were going to class. I just was hearing on the news this morning, so many closures in so many states. And so this is a very fluid season that we're all in. Be aware of your teams. Be aware of what's going on. Communicate that very clearly. I'd say communication is more important in this day and age than ever, and leaning into your listening skills is going to be so key. I'd love to invite you to take a free work from home assessment that we're offering. The link is going to be posted. You can go and take that, share it with your team members, find out your own style. Find strengths that are going to help you communicate more effectively with your team members. It's really a great assessment. We're so thankful to be able to offer it to you free in this season. It's our way of giving back during COVID to be able to help you as leaders tap into your strengths, tap into understanding of your own team members, and really bridge that gap and communicate more effectively. Thank you for joining me in my home. I hope you've learned something on this episode. Please join us next week. For our next episode, we want to share more practical tips and help you as a leader. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us today. You have the potential to communicate, engage, and lead with significant impact, and my goal is to help you do just that. Whether you're trying to get that next big promotion, scale your small business, or manage a team of thousands, there's always room for growth, and I can help you get there. Go to disc-report.com and find out what style of leader you are by downloading my free ebook on communication. Until next time, lead well and prosper.